Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be making a little jug jewelry, and it looks like this on your jug with a little spigot on it. I believe these might come in different sizes. I'm not sure. So you would adjust it by that ribbon. I went a little longer with my ribbon, and if you need to, see how I just made a little tie in the back? So you can just have a little tie in the back to adjust it on your first one. And then after that, if you do other ones, because you could do one that's iced tea, lemonade, sangria, alcohol, no alcohol, all that. And it's just a quick little thing that, oh shoot, I hit a button with my knuckle. It's just a quick little thing. Let me take the picture down. There we go. This is just a quick little project. The edges are raw. It wasn't anything to get fancy about. Part of the point of this is to show you how to use some of the things that if you have a baby lock or a brother machine, embroidery machine, and I believe it's the frames, and there's frames and fonts in every size, even the little 4x4 one, that you can make something like this. I would normally probably use my pinking scissors around here, okay? But this will just fray. And if I always use shape flex behind my fabrics when I embroider. I can't see. You can't see how it's part of it's there and part of it's not. Shape Flex is made by Pellon, I believe it is, and I put it behind all my fabrics when I'm embroidering because it just gives it that extra body to help with your puckering. You see, I didn't do it on this one, so we'll see the difference was because this was just like a test, and I can't seem to spell lemonade, so. Anyway, so I shape flex the back. It just gives it a little body. It's still, still fine for use. So this morning, we're going to make a design that'll fit the 5x7 or the 6x6. If someone should watch this video and they have a 4x4, you'll just reduce it down to the size of the hoop you have. Conversely, if you want it bigger, you can make it bigger because we're going to go in and see how to make these frames larger and smaller. Good morning, Gloria. So we have two fabrics that are 5x6. This is the front and the back. So this is the front, the polka dot. And the back, you see how the back is, nicely done. There's no stitches showing or anything behind there. And then the piece here is 4x5. I have about 20 inches of grosgrain 1/4-inch ribbon. I've learned not to use the ribbon. It's like a satin with those little picot, cutie little edges to it, because every time I've used it, when you stitch across here a couple times, it just cuts it right off and your ribbon falls right out. It just seems to happen with that picot one. So I stick with grosgrain because I know that's going to be fine, and it doesn't really. It has a little more body to it. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. Let me get back to the beginning. Okay, so depending what machine you have, if you're at your very beginning screen. Now, if you have the like the Journey, maybe the Dream Machine, I think it would be the Journey. I'm trying to think of the equivalent in the brother one. If you turn your machine on, you've got your hoop, your arm on, and it comes up and it has some will say sewing, embroidery edit. You always want to go into that embroidery edit. The newer machines don't bother with those two choices anymore. It's all edit. But I want you to look and find your frames. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a second or two to find the frames. And we're going to go into the frames. I believe most every machine has the exact same amount of frames. So there's 10 frames, and I believe there's 12 choices of stitches on each one. So we're going to go into the oval one, and I'm going to go try to go to hit the button after you. So in case anybody, I don't want to hit the button too soon and someone didn't see it. So I'm just going to wait a minute, and you're going to find your oval shape, and you're going to select that. Now, depending on what machine you have, if you have a bigger machine, you're going to have a bigger screen, and you're going to see the designs all at one time. This is the Aventura smaller screen, and I have right here, I have arrows to go back and forth. You might have arrows inside the bottom of your screen, depends what machine you have. But I'm going to arrow until I find the plain one, and it should be number 10. And I believe it's going to be number 10 on all of them. If you're on the Aventura or a smaller one, this number 10 looks kind of jaggedy, but it really is, it's just a running stitch going around. And I'm going to select that. Okay, so make sure you're selected on it. And I believe on your machine too, it should be number 10. We're going to hit set. Okay, and let me just address that. Christine, if Sandy can't hear, that's on her end because everybody else can hear okay. So she has to make an adjustment on hers somehow. I'm not quite sure. Hopefully she'll get it figured out. Okay, so now this is about 2.33 inches by 3.30 inches. So we want it bigger than that. So we're going to go to size. Okay. Now, on some of the bigger machines, you have two options that would be about right here on your screen. And the right-hand side one is to redigitize. You don't need that. You just need the left one is fine, or it may have one even, it may even be grayed out. So I'm coming down to the resize where it's resizing in both directions, so it's proportional. And what I want to do is, so I'm using 5x7 and I'm going, say, this way across. So I want to be just under 5. So if I get to 5, I'm going to go back 1. So I'm just going to hold it down until I get up to about, I'm at 4.94. So that's fine. I could go to 5. I just have to remember what I have for fabric. And I think I'm 6x5. I'm going to go back 1 only because for people it might be smaller. So I'm at 4.94. And the top would be roughly about the same as mine, 3.48. So I want to make sure everybody gets there. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Okay, and we're going to say, okay, hit OK. And if you have the ability now, on the big machines, you don't have to do this, but we're going to do it anyways, and I'm going to show you the difference in a minute. But on this machine, I don't have a duplicate button here. So I'm going to save this in my pocket. So see, I'm going to hit, so you might have memory as a button. You hit memory and then hit your machine. And yours will be faster than mine. Okay, and then I'm back to this screen. Deb is asking where the size button is. I don't know which machine you're on to be able to answer that. If you could tell me what machine you're on, I can help you out. If you're on your big machine, over on this top side should be Edit or Layout tab, and you go in there. If you're on your little Sophia, I think it would look similar to this. Good morning, Alberta. So now we have our oval and we've saved it. So in looking at this, we want to look at this for a second. So let me get something to point with instead of my finger. So we have to give this a little thought. Excuse me. That first oval going down is going to stitch, excuse me, is going to stitch onto my stabilizer only, so I know where to put my fabric down and how big a piece I need to have. I want it, a little bigger all the way around than what this is. Once I lay my fabric down, I need to have a tack down stitch that's going to hold this fabric down. Okay? Then the next one is for this fabric. The placement isn't so important because you pretty much know it's going to be inside of this line. But I still want to have a tack down stitch before I start doing this decorative stitch, or it'll just make the fabric all wonky on you. Okay? So if you think about it, the first one is a placement stitch that goes onto your stabilizer to place this fabric down, your back fabric. I'm going to call it, let me see. Can't call it front back fabric. The under fabric, this layer 1 fabric. Then once I lay this fabric down, I need a stitch to hold that fabric down, which is called the tack down fabric. Then for this one, I don't need a placement because I know this fabric, this green fabric, is going to be inside of this, doesn't need to be any bigger than this outside line. So I can lay my fabric down, but I need to tack it down again. So under this pink is a straight stitch going around to hold this fabric down. I don't want to trim this fabric until after I do this stitching, because see how I trimmed it to kind of meet the scallops? Okay, so once we have our placement, tack down, then we need our decorative stitch. Then our words are going to go on, and then we have to stitch on this back fabric, and also it's going to hold this ribbon. So this first size here, we're going to need 3 times. Now, and that's why once we sized it to the size we want, and this may become an issue or a little problem in a few minutes, and I'm going to talk about that. But hopefully, we're going to have this stitch will be 3 times that we're going to use it. So since we put it in the memory, we can bring it back, or you could write down the size of it. If you have a bigger machine that has a duplicate, you don't have to worry about it, because you can go back to that first size oval and duplicate that to go later on in the list of sewing orders. I hope that's not too confusing. Okay, so we're going to need this stitch twice, then the tack down for this one, the decorative stitch, the words, and then this stitch again to finish off the back. So we have our first one. If you have duplicate, and it'll look like, I believe it'll look like a square kind of next to another square, you can just hit that and get your second one. Okay, and if you have that and get your second one, that's fine. I'm going to go out to the pocket, and you can go out to the pocket also. Oh, I didn't mean to save it. I meant to go get it. So now I have 2 of them. Sorry. I want to go to add, and I want to come to my pocket. And I have it twice now. It doesn't matter which one I pick. And I can delete it later. And I'm going to hit set. So I have 2 of them now, but I need to make the second one a different color, because if I don't make it a different color, the machine won't stop for me to put that fabric down. So I want to come into my color, and I'm going to make it red. Doesn't matter what color it is. And I'm just going to double check. Now, this machine, you go plus and minus to go from one design, part of the design to another. On your bigger machines, you may be able to just touch on the color thread, not the design, but the color thread under it to change your color. You'll have a list of them. Okay. So I'm just going to hit my minus to see, okay, my first color is black. My second color is red. I'm good. So the black will stitch and it'll stop. I'll be able to lay my fabric down, hit go. My red one will go and it'll stop. Okay. So now we have our placement and tack down for the big part of our, I'm going to call it a tag. Now I need to get my inside oval. So everyone is going to go out and do add, only because I want you to practice at this. Add, go to the frame, pick the oval again, find the oval you want. And yes, we could have gone back to the pocket and got it, but part of this is an exercise to go back into frames and do different, move around your machine screen a little more. Okay, so thank you, Alice, for answering. I want to go to number 10 again, because that's what I used before, and hit set. I'm going to go to my size again, and I'm kind of looking at my little picture here, and I'm going to come out, and I came out a little far, and I think we cut our second fabric 4 by 5. So I don't want to be close to 5 across. I'm looking at this, and I'm quite a ways in. So I'm going to come back to smaller to about, where am I? I was looking at my wrong one. So I am at 3.82. And you can come in, you can go out. Let's go out just a little more, because we're 5 by 4. So let's see. I have 2.79, 3.95. And again, when you're making something here, whether it's a tag, a gift tag, whatever it is, you're going to make it to the size that you want. This is just an exercise to show you how to do those things. So I got it to the size I want, 3.95 by 2.79. I'm looking at my little picture here, and I can come in and look at my button up here, and I can see the distance. So that looks pretty good. We'll see in a minute how that works out. And what I mean is when we put the words in. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a second to get to that size. And I'm going to say okay, or hit okay. And now I want to change that color again. Now, even though when you bring it in, it comes in black, I just want you to get in the habit of every time you add something to your little design, go in and change the color just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to change the color to, I don't know. Let's see. I'm not trying to pick a color you can see. I guess I got this brown color here. I think that's brown. Oh, let me see. Let's go blue. I'll go blue. How's that? And then once I have my color, I'm going to say okay. And so now I can see that that's blue. So every time there's a color change, the machine is going to stop. And we want the machine to stop, in this case, at every step, in case we need to add fabric or trim fabric, or just to take a moment to, make sure we're where we need to be. Now, if you were going to use this tag for more than one thing and you want this size, you're going to save it. So if you have memory or your pocket, go ahead and hit that and save it into your machine. Because then you don't have to go through that whole process. You can just put whatever words in. So rather than bringing the design in and taking the words out, why not save the design before the words are there? To me, that's easier. but either way will work. So now we need to add our scallop around. And we need to remember what size that was. So I'm going to look at my size again, and I would write it down. So it's 2.79 and 3.95. Okay? Because we want our scallop to go over that. And that may have to be adjusted depending on how the scallop is going to fall. So we're going to go add. We're going to go back to our frames again. We're going to get our oval frame, and we're going to pick, I believe it'll be number 4. And it's got what kind of looks like this. So that's not, I mean, that's not as smooth looking, but on your bigger machines, it might be a little smoother. Okay, so try to pick the same one because some of them are multicolored and will take longer, and we're going to hopefully embroider along with this one. So I'm going to choose that. Okay, so it's number 4 on mine, and hit set. So that means I have it in there now. Now I need to go into size. So if I go into my little hoop, you see how I can see that it's not the same size. I need it over that blue line. So I'm going to come out, and I'm going to go to the dimensions here that I had before, which this was 3.95. All right, so I'm at 3.94. Let me hit one more time. Okay, so I went a little over, but I want to go in and look at it. And can you see that the dimension is going by the middle of the design? So I can still see my running stitch. So I need this to be bigger. And that's why I said you may have to have your running stitch smaller depending on the size of your fabric. We went 4 by 5, so we're okay so far. So I'm going to come out, and I went to 422, and I'm going to look again, and that looks to me like it's covered all right. Now on the bigger machines, you may even be able to come in more. This is as far as this one will come in. To see, you can't do any moving here or do anything here. You have to hit the OK and go back out and fix it. So I'm going to give everybody a minute. Once you have it where you want it, you're going to hit OK. Remember, every time we add something, we're going to go in and change the color. And I can use a color that I had before, so I could use the red if I wanted to, but let me see what else I got. So I'm going to use a green, and I'm only using a darker color, so hopefully you can see it. So I know that every step is a different color. I can use the colors over again, so I could go red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, as long as the color is different than the one before it and the one after it. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody just a second to make sure you're caught up. Now, we saved before we did this decorative stitch, and I did it before in case you want to change the decorative stitch, but you want to have that same shape. I'm going to save it now because I may want a bunch of them to match that I'm going to give to somebody or whatever. And so I'm going to save it because anything I save, I can get rid of later. So it'll either have the pocket or it'll say memory. It may say save. I'm not sure. I think most of them say memory. So if anybody wants to do a little quick comment that they're all set, thumbs up, something, smiley face. Okay, so I'm going to assume everybody's good. So we're going to review this again. We did our placement to put this fabric down, our tack down to tack this fabric down. We did our tack down for this fabric, and we've done this decorative stitch. So now we're ready to do our letters. So we're going to go back to add. We're going to go into our fonts, and I believe I picked number 4. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a second to get there. Oh, thanks, ladies, for letting me know you're all set. So I can't do anything with size of the letter until I pick a letter. So I'm going to do a lemonade one. So I'm going to hit the L, and I'm pretty sure that the large is too large. I'm going to go to the small. Now, nothing changes really here, but now that letter is small. And I will tell you on any machine that medium is not halfway between large and small. It's more towards the smaller side. What you may want to do at some time is just take a few letters from each of your fonts and stitch them out in the 3 sizes and keep that in your resource book. It might just save you wear and tear. So I want an L, then I want a lowercase letter. On some machines, the lowercase may be a separate button, but mine, see, the tab has upper and lowercase. So that means I just have to scroll down to find the lowercase. So here's my L, M, O, N. I've got to go back up to get my A, D, and down to get my E. Do you see how I didn't have to pick my letter size every time because I designated at the beginning? If I wanted to change it, I could do that, but it will stay with the size that you picked to start with. Good morning, Sandy. So I've got my lemonade in, and I'm going to hit set. And now I'm looking and see how tiny my lemonade is. Now, depending what machine you have, whether you can do this or not. If you don't have a font edit somewhere, on the big machines, you might have to go into your top tab, layout or edit, whichever it is, and find it there. I'm going to give everybody just a minute to locate that. Or you would delete it and try the next size up. I'm going to go into the font edit. And I'm just going to wait for a minute while everybody finds it. In the meantime, I will show you that this word is all one color. Here, I can make it so each letter is a different color. Array means I can change it to put it on an arc over or an arc under and adjust it. This is other types of letters. Some of these are spacing. I want to look at this one here because that tells me that's about size. And I want to make it bigger. You can't just stretch a font bigger in the size area. Fonts aren't digitized the same as a design is. So they don't have that ability to go bigger and smaller and still look nice. So I'm going to go into this one that has the size. And right here, even though I have this, you got to be very careful. And you would have to stitch a test to make sure it really comes out right. I'm going to hit my button. It's automatically going to go to large in this machine. And I just have to hit the button again and it'll go to medium. It's going to do it one letter at a time. So I'm going to move over to the next letter, hit it twice to get it to be a medium. And I'm just going to work my way across until I get them all done. And I'm keeping an eye on making sure it's not too big for the oval that I did. When I get done,
I'll know when I hit the arrow because it came back to the L. I can hit OK. I can come up into my hoop, zoom in, and I can see that it's going to fit in there just fine. And I'm going to hit OK and OK. And I'm just going to wait there for a minute for everyone to catch up. If a lot of people have the bigger machine and you're having difficulties, let me know in the comment, and we can take a break, and maybe later on this afternoon, not the stitching part, we won't need to do that, but I can go through that screen a little bit with you. I think for the most part, you may flounder a little bit in the beginning, but whatever's on this little machine, trust me, it's on the big machine. It just might be in a different spot. Generally, it's under the tab for your edit or layout. It's going to be under one of the two. Okay, so I'm going to go in and change my color, because remember, every time I add something, even though it's black, I'm going to just get in the habit of changing that color. And I'm going to go back to the, well, let me try pink. Let's see if it shows up good. Well, let me go to this darker one. There we go. Now, in the bigger machine, I'm going to wait again for a minute, because in the bigger machines, you might have to do, you may have to do these one letter at a time. So I'm just going to give you a minute in case you have to do that. And I'm going to hit OK on mine because I'm done changing my colors. Okay? So let me bring this back one more time. Okay? We're going to review, and I know it may be tedious, but I want you to get into the mode of thinking of the things that you have to do in order to get the result you want. I had to have a placement stitch for this fabric. Then I had the tack down stitch for this fabric. I know how to place my green fabric because it's just going to be around inside or close to this red fabric, so I don't need to waste time with another placement. But I need the tack down for it, so we did the tack down for the green. Then we did the decorative stitch to go over and cover that tack down. Now we've done the words. So the last thing we need to do is attach this back and these ribbons. And we're going to use the same oval that we used to start with. Okay, so remember, I had you put it in your pocket. On the big machines, now let's just do it in the pocket. It's just going to be easier. So let's go to our pocket, and that's from our machine. And if you wanted to use a stick, you could have. But remember, save to your machine. Sometimes it's just quicker, and you can always get rid of it. You can always move it over to a stick afterwards. Oh, see, I did it again. I did a save. I keep going this way. I got to go to add. Sorry, I do it every single time. And you'll probably do it too. So I'm going to do add. I'm going to go into my little machine. And I've got like a half a dozen of these now. So I want this one I don't want this one I just did.
I want my original, just that circle or oval. And I'm going to hit set. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to change the color of that, and I'm just going to make it red. Okay? So if I come into my colors, and in the bigger machines, you can scroll down or arrow down. On the littler machines, I know my finger's kind of in the way, but I don't have my stylus. So if I go back, if I hit the plus, it takes me back to the beginning. My very first one was black. So there's my placement. There's my tack down, my second tack down, my decorative stitch on my inside fabric, my word, and my final stitching for the back. And then it takes me back to the beginning. Are we good there? Okay, so I'm going to do, in this case, I have edit end, depending what machine you're on. You're just going to hit whatever's in this corner, embroidery, sewing, whatever's there, until that's gone and you're ready to stitch. And I think on the bigger machines, the right-hand side will now say memory. I believe that would be correct. I don't pay that much attention when I'm stitching, so. Good morning, Rhonda. Okay, so we've done all of our work and now we're ready to stitch. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I don't mean to hit the camera. I'm gonna put the zoom back a little bit and I'm gonna come over. So now you can see both screens. Let me see. So I just want you to be able to see that little corner, or look at the corner of yours. Oh, hold on. There. Okay. Regular bobbin thread in the bobbin. You don't need to worry about the color because it's not gonna really, there's nothing, all this is gonna be hidden. And this last color, if you want to make it a color, mine was white with the pink. It looks like, can you see white with pink dots on it? So whatever you want to have there is fine. But remember, this is, you know, this isn't your prom dress. Okay, so I've hooped up regular cutaway stabilizer, not no-show mesh. If you read instructions and it calls for cutaway stabilizer, unless it says no-show mesh, you're using cutaway stabilizer. The reason I use it is because it's going to stay in and give a little body to this. Okay. So embroidery needle, and I put in my first thread color. So whatever color I want here, up here, this pink one, is going to be my first. My first thread in. Okay, so let's go ahead and stitch the first part. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to lay down my first fabric. And again, I shape flex everything that I embroider, just about everything. So I'm just going to lay this down so that it covers all of those sides. If you want to take, and I'm going to look here. So I'm going to flip this up so I can see that let me move my hand. My side, I got like a 1/2 inch over on this side, 1/2 inch over on this side. don't forget this back guy, because a lot of times we forget about that. So you want to be a 1/2 inch or more, hopefully, behind that. Now, if you want to tape your 4 corners, go ahead. I'm a creature of bad habits. If you're in my class, I'd probably make you tape it. But especially with the shape flex on it, this isn't like pulling in or anything. So I'm going to do it with no tape because I'm going to show you how I do mine. And my disclaimer is if you put your needle through your finger, I'm sorry, I don't have my hands anywhere near my needle. So I'm going to, oh, I forgot what machine I was on. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And I'm going to keep my hands right here. And I can keep my hand in front of my foot, just smoothing the fabric as I go around. Okay? Now, do I have to trim this now? I think I'm going to give it a little trim, only because I want to make sure that you can see what I do. I would probably use pinking shears here, but I don't know where mine are. Well, I mean, I know where they are, but I can't get to them. And I'm taking this off the hoop, and let's see if I can do it from right here. So when I trim this, I should have used I can't think. I'm going to be about, I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm going to be about, I'm going to trim away less. I'm going to have a bigger trim than this. This trim I did afterwards. So can you see? Okay, so what, maybe 1/4 inch or so, a little more, 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to come around, and I always trim with these. So if I keep my scissors flat, can you see that my scissors are flat here? I'm not going to be cutting into the fabric I'm not supposed to. And I'm not going to be perfect. And normally I might leave this, but I want to be able to see what's going on behind there. So I'm going to have you be able to see it. And you notice I'm moving the hoop. I'm not getting my hands all twisted around. And I'll trim this now to give you a chance to get caught up. And normally I wouldn't trim it on top of here. I would put it on the table because I don't like anything to touch my beautiful machine. So I've just trimmed it up a bit. And let me see if I can show you. My stitches are right here. Let's see if you can see. My stitches are right here. So I've got more than 1/4, a little less than 1/2. If you're going to pink it, leave a little more. So I'm going to change thread. So maybe you'll be able to see it. Thread color. Maybe you'll be able to see it better. So we're going to be doing this scallop. So now is the time to change your thread because you want the thread underneath that your tack down stitch to be the same color as this, just in case it should show somewhere. Oh, for crying out loud. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully everybody has their thread changed. And now, I'm just going to bring this out for a minute. I'm going to lay down my second color. And it pretty much goes right over that first one. So now, because I trimmed this a little bit, I know roughly where this needs to be. So I'm just going to kind of center it here. And again, you could tape it down. Someone asked me what embroidery needle I'm using. You always use a 75 embroidery needle unless that's giving you an issue, like you're working on something thicker. But for the most part, you always stay with your 75. And I'm going to stop for a minute because I have a little thread sticking up. So I want to make sure I don't stitch that in when I come around. So I'm just going to trim that out of the way. Okay, so you don't need to take your machine off the hoop. I'm just showing you. So now I've got my tack down for this fabric. I'm not going to trim it because I have that scallop going around. Now, having said that, do you see how, let me hold this up. So now you can make a decision, and I'll do it the other way just so you can see the difference. So you see how I have, I'm trying to get it so it isn't foggy there, fuzzy. But do you see how I trimmed the green around? Well, let's say I don't want to do that. Let's say I don't want any of this green to show, okay? I'm going to trim this now. Then my scallops will fall outside onto the other fabric, but there'll be no fabric. There'll be no fabric to trim like this green is. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go ahead and trim that. So let me see if I can do it here again. So I'm going to just cut in. So see, I've just cut into near the circle. And I'm going to hold this up. See, I'm holding it up. See if I can get around without my hands. Let's see if I go this way. There you go. And I got my scissors are flat. That's why I like these scissors. As long as I keep these scissors flat, I'm not trimming my stitches. I don't have to get perfectly close to that edge because my scallop should pretty well cover anything I don't quite trim perfect. Having said that, that doesn't mean you want to leave like a 1/4 of an inch of fabric. And again, I would be sitting on have this on a nice flat surface, and your lap is not a flat surface, because you wouldn't want to have your legs be flat on the top. They'd look funny. So take the time to put it on the table, not your lap. So this one's not so perfect. Leave it so you can see. So see, I got a little more there than I should have. Should be about like that. But I'm going to see how that scallop covers. That way you'll know. Okay, so I have the thread in that I want my scallop color to be. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to rock the boat there. Now this is going to take a minute or two to go around.
And every machine has a different speed to it. So if anybody has any questions while this is going around, I apologize for the noise, but I will try to answer any questions you have. Oh, I picked it. That is a different one from the one I had. I couldn't tell. So on this machine I can't really see the scallop. So we got something different than this one, unless you picked the actual scallop. So we're talking about scissors. Some people use snips, but do you see what a snip is? It's curved. So a lot of times I don't use them. I want flat. So see how that stays flat. But whatever you're more comfortable with, I just never use these little snips because they're made for thread. And if I start cutting fabric with them, they won't cut my thread anymore. So if you like to trim with this type, I suggest you get something different for trimming your threads. So mine's going to look more like a sunshine. And so yes, those little places where my fabric wasn't trimmed really well will show, but again, it's okay. So I probably, because I think most of you are on the big machines and you're waiting for me. So I see a little thread I want to get rid of. So I picked, because I honestly couldn't see which one I had, I picked this design, thinking I was getting the scallop. I look more like the sunshine. That's okay. Then see the difference between the two? Oh, wait a minute. Let me put my hand back here so it covers that a little bit. There you go. Okay. So see, you can see, remember the spot where I had a little more fabric? And I really wouldn't worry about that. You can come in and just carefully snip it a little bit, but I wouldn't worry about that. So if you pick the other one, now you know what this one looks like. And if you pick the one I just picked, then you'll know what this one looks like. Gloria's let me know that the scallops were number 5. I think I picked number 4. So the scallops were, so these scallops are number 5. Okay. Like I said, on the little machine, and I don't have the best eyes to begin with, on the little machine, I can't, it wasn't quite, it was kind of blurry. Okay. So I'm assuming now everybody has their scallops or whatever they were doing left. So if we look on our screen now, our words come up. So I think that I'm going to switch back to the yellow so that I don't have the same color as my white. It looks like a sun, an orange sun with white rays on it. So this is one of those things that if you make something, so if I make this and I'm not especially fond of it, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it in my resource book. I'm going to write down what I did, what font size I used, and what so forth, so that I have this for a reference later on. So if I go, geez, I made that jug jewelry there. I can't remember what it was about. And I have it right there. You can write down Miss Loreens Schoolhouse, YouTube, and what the date was. Anything that helps you remember. So don't throw them away.
Well, unless you really hate it and it's going to keep you awake at night or give you nightmares, then you'd have to throw it away. But for the most part, I'd stick it in my resource book. And I would have a separate resource book for my, oh, that was good. For my, I dropped my spool cap, hold on. Remember, this is live and uncut. Isn't that what they say? I keep a resource book for embroidery, for sewing, applique. I have an applique one. I have a serger one. It just keeps, you can't remember everything you did. Except those really horrendous mistakes where you stitched your sleeve into your machine. You can always remember that. So we're going to go ahead and get our word done. I hope this isn't especially loud. I promise that the next time I do an embroidery, I'll do it on the bigger machine. My goal today was especially for people that only have a smaller machine or have a small machine that, they have been taking the class but haven't been taking it lately or just want to learn it because generally things are a little bit harder when you have a small machine because it has less features on it. So if anybody has any questions. And again, I think most of you are on the bigger machine, so I might be a little behind you, but this is time you can take a little sip of your tea. Probably could run and go to the bathroom, take a break. We still have fabric for the back and our ribbon to go. I always use paper tape for this kind of thing. The paper tape, I'm going to be leaving, the paper tape is going to stay inside here and you don't see it like you would maybe the pink tape. And it's paper, so I would assume it'll disintegrate. I use paper tape most of the time. It's not my favorite to deal with because I can't seem to tear it straight. I have to always cut it with scissors. And I think some of you girls bought little tape dispensers to fit your paper tape. Okay, so you're not taking, or yes, you're going to be taking, now you're going to be taking your hoop off, but don't take anything out of the hoop. So there we are so far. Okay, so now we need to turn the hoop over to the back. And I'm just going to put mine right there. You're going to put yours on your table. I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to hold my ribbon. Get a hold of it here. I'm going to hold my ribbon how I want it hanging on my jug. Well, not my jug, but on my jug. On my lemonade jug. And I want to make sure I've got both ends. I'm hanging on to both ends here. And this is how it's going to be when it's facing forward, as if I was hanging it on the jug. I'm going to turn it over. I'm still hanging on to these two guys. Okay. I'm hanging on. And I put my hoop under the foot to hold it for me. And what I want to do is I'm going to lay these down. And I'll move my hand here in a second. And I want to have, let me see if I can zoom in a little for you. There we go. I don't want them coming out from here. I want a little space. So I've got an equal amount of scallops because my design comes in centered. And I've got about an inch inside of that scallop area. Or maybe we'll go a little less than an inch. So we're an inch inside of that first placement because that's where we're going to stitch again. So my ribbon is an inch in towards the words from that outside first stitching. And I'm going to take some paper tape. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so rattly loud there. And I'm going to tape down each one. Now, I don't want you to push too hard on this unless you put your hand, my hand is now underneath here so that I have something to press against. Or I can wait till I flip it over. But my hand is under, so my hand is supporting this. Otherwise, I'm pushing my stabilizer and I'm loosening it up. Okay? So now I've got my ribbon done. Now I need to put my fabric on. So again, I have shape flex on the back of it. So I'm going to put this fabric down so it's centered all the way around to my other fabric that's the same color, to my very first fabric. And I want to check both sides. Oh, let me go back a little ways here now. There we go. I want to check both sides that I'm covered. I want to make sure I'm covered here, but don't forget about this fella back here. Okay. Now I have to tape this down because I can't run my hand underneath the back. It'd be painful. And I'm going to tape my four corners. So let me get some tape going here. I notice as I get closer to the end, it takes more to get the tape off. So I'm going to tape my corners and I just get my hand out of your way. And again, I'm not pushing down hard on that yet. So I'm not taping across here. I'm taping these corners. If I tape here, this is just all going to flop around. And don't be too cheap with the tape. And you don't need to get carried away with the tape. Somewhere in between. What is that, about 2 inches maybe? 2 inches of tape. Now, I've taped these and I kind of smooth across. Now I want to make sure I smooth down, and I'm lightly pressing on this because underneath is up in the air. And again, I'm smoothing it down and I'm lightly putting that on there. So let me back up again. And I know it's white tape, it's hard to see, but see my four corners. Now I'm going to turn it over carefully. I want to make sure my ribbon is out here. I can just stick it right there, see? But I want to, before I put it back on the machine, on the arm, I want to press everything down. So now that tape on the back, I've really pressed it down, and I'm pressing down where the tape is. And if you look, I don't know if you can see, Like, see, can you see? I can see my fabric and I can see my ribbons. You see them there? So I can see what's going on. If I don't have enough piece up here, that just happened to be a coincidence. I don't want you to think that I was that smart. I just want to keep an eye on this take because I don't want to go in under my hoop. And you know, under the hoop, there lives a little troll and he likes to grab onto your stuff. So I'm carefully putting that on. I can see that my ribbons moved a little bit. So I just want to make sure everybody stays where they're supposed to be. And I can see right through my stabilizer because I trimmed this part out of the way. I can see how my back fabric is behaving because that can roll back on you as well. So once I get it on, I'm going to get my hoop on. I'm going to go around. I'm going to take the time to look in the back. I'm going to see where my ribbon is. That it isn't going to get sucked into somewhere or stuck on something or who knows what the little thing will do. Okay? So it pays to double check. But because I trimmed out some of that top one, I can see the square of that back. Okay? And you should be on number 6. You should be on number 6. And you should see your oval there. No matter what any instructions tell you, whatever's in this, if you have a baby lock or a brother, whatever's in this little box is what's going to sew. So in your pattern, if it said you had a square there and you have a circle, it's not going to change into a square because the direction said so. So you have, this is like your little Bible. This is what's really going to happen no matter what. Okay? So now we're ready to go. Now, I used, let me see. I used yellow out here in the beginning. So I'm going to use yellow again because that stitching is going to go right on the other stitching. Okay. Could I have put a decorative stitch here? Could have. It's all up to you. This is kind of a little project to kind of play with things and see what happens. You're just using scraps of fabric. And I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I'm ready to stop anytime I see that little troll trying to do something with something underneath my hoop. Okay, so I finished embroidering. If for some reason I felt that I needed to have another line of stitching there, I can go to my first one, which is the exact same size. And if I'm not sure, I would scroll through to my last one. So first I'm going to go ahead and trim this little pieces away. And I'm going to show you how to go forward to get to that last one to stitch again, because you might not have it at the very beginning. So somewhere on your machine screen is a needle with a plus and minus. You're going to hit that. Okay? Depending which machine you have, I happen to have spools that tell me if I see a spool and I hit the plus, it goes ahead one full color change. On some of the bigger machines, let me see. So your screen is about this tall. Right about here somewhere, you're going to have an up and down arrow. And I always get those confused of is up forward or is up going to the next one. I don't know. So I always look right here and I see what number I'm on. And if I hit the arrow and it goes the wrong way, then I hit the other arrow. But in this case, I know that I'm going to go with the plus. I could go with a minus to go to the last one, but I want you to learn to scroll through because that doesn't always work. So I'm going to scroll through and I'm watching my numbers. I know I have 6 colors, so I got to get to the number 6. Now, you're going to say, because I've done it a million times myself, well, geez, my needle's in the middle. I really need to be out here. Am I really where I'm supposed to be? Well, I always do this. I go +1. And it's going to, oh, what am I? Oh, see, I went to 5. See, I need glasses apparently. Oh, I have them on. Okay. I need to be at, okay, let me find out what's going on here. I'm going to start over and I'm going to go forward. Mine still looks like it's saying 5. That's really weird. So what happens if I go backwards? Now it says 6. For some reason, when I was going forward, no matter how many times I hit it, I was getting the 5. I don't know why. So, I knew that because when I hit the 1, it only came out to the letters. And I'd probably know it if I closed the screen. But so I'm in the middle. If I hit that +1, see how it took me out to the section that I'm really working on? And I can go, oh yeah, now I feel better. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go. Okay, and now I'm finished. So let me just back up a ways here. There we go. So I'm done, and it went back to 0, told me I was done. And my ribbon is good. So I'm going to take my tape off. And if I haven't used the tape much, I put it right back onto my tape. I don't stick it all over my machine. I put it right back onto my tape because that helps preserve the tackiness because that's how it came to begin with. And I'll pile them on top of one another, but I will also, if you can see how there's my first one, there's my second one. So I kind of stagger them so I can pick them up. If I was taping down batting, I wouldn't bother because batting kind of makes it so your tape never works again. So I'm going to take it out of the hoop. Now I'm going to trim this from the back because I got to keep an eye on my ribbons. Okay. So let me see if I can do that so that you can see. Let's see. I'm back about as far as I can go. There we go. Now let me get all these other tools out of the way. Oh, Denise has hers already posted up on Facebook. Good girl, Denise. So I'm not going to trim this all the way because I don't want to. I don't. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Okay. I don't want to do it and you can't see it. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to get rid of my stabilizer. So I'm making sure those ribbons, trust me, I've been there, are back out of the way. And normally, let me see, I've got to go this way. Sorry. And I just want to get rid of the bigger part of it. And see, my scissors will go just like that. So I know when I cut that way, if your scissors are nice and sharp, I'm not cutting my fabric. And now I'm coming around by these guys. And I want to make sure I don't cut the fabric on the bottom. And I'm trying to do this so you can see. It's just easier to trim if you get rid of all that bulk. And see, now I still have the stabilizer on the front because I can't see. But I can come in and I can flip this down. And let's see, can you see? Oh, apparently I have to go this direction. I'm just getting into my stabilizer and getting it out of the way. And getting past those ribbons. Because trust me, you'll knock them off one of these days. Cut them right off. Okay, so I really wanted to make sure I got it out of the way of the ribbon area. So now I'm just going to come around and I'm going to work from the front because I've already trimmed that, and this is the part I want to see more. So I'm going to trim, and again, you can use your pinking shears. And I'm going to come up near this ribbon, but I can't just cut all the way across. So I have to grab just the fabric. So my scissors, see how my scissors are on top of that ribbon? And I'm going to go around to the other ribbon, and obviously because I'm holding it, it's not pretty. And I'm pushing that ribbon back and getting past that ribbon. And now I'm going to come back and try to be as equal, but this time I have to go behind the ribbon. But I want to stay as equal to the fabric in the front as possible. Okay, now see, I've got a little piece of stabilizer sticking up here. I'm just going to fold that out of the way and just get in there and trim out that stabilizer without trimming my ribbon. And then I can go around the rest of the way, trimming front and back at the same time. If I want to get in and pull that stabilizer further back, you can. Some people might like to use a tearaway. I don't. I find that the tearaway just yanks on the stitches. We end up yanking on the stitches way too much. But that's a personal preference. Again, you can use your pinking shears. But there we go. So he's ready to hang. If you find again that this is a little too long, I just take and put the pieces together, put a little knot in the back, and that way I can hang it however I want to hang it. So does anybody have any questions? Denise was saying that her pinking shears are big and sticky. Yes, I agree with you. They're not a smooth cut. Now, you could, once you know this one, you could try and pink your pieces ahead of time. I'd go a little bit bigger, pink your pieces ahead of time, but you really will want to tape those down. So if I pinked my front and back beforehand, I would make sure I gave myself a little extra room, and I would tape that fabric down after the placement stitch. And when you do your back onto it, you got to make sure your little pinking peaks match up together. Or not. I guess it really wouldn't matter. It would make it kind of whimsical. But you could try pinking that ahead of time. It's just a couple pieces of fabric. And what is it? 15 minutes of your time if you're not slowly going along like we were today, and give it a try. So pink ahead of time. I mean, the pinking shears are still big. You could also, they make a rotary cutter, but you'd have to be careful to get your oval right. But you could pick the rectangle and use a wavy rotary cutter. And, that would give you that little edge. But I agree with you, Denise. The pinking shears they're not my favorite. They look nice, but they're very thick. They're very hard to open and close. And I've never seen a small pair of them. There may be some, I just haven't seen them. Gloria's pinking hers. So Gloria, will you make sure that you post your picture or send it to me and I'll post it, and we'll put them on the yesterday's post about the class. If you put them just down in the comments, so because everybody likes to see all the different choices we've made. And if you do any more during the week or later on, post those too, because you might try a different shape. You can try a different design here. There's one that has two colors. I think there's a vine and a little picture, a rosebud or a little bud of a flower. So yeah, yes, Denise, I agree. It hurts your hand. I can't close my right hand all the way, and so it's difficult for me as well. You could, Denise. You've got your. Don't you have the wavy? Do you have the wavy tool on your Cricut? Maybe you could try that. That might be cool. I'd try it with a square probably first. You'll have to keep us posted on that. Maybe I'll cut one with the little joy. We'll just turn this into a cutting festival to see all the different ways we can cut things. So if everybody's all set and don't have any questions, this will wrap up the class. Oh, so Gloria, if you look in her comments, she didn't put the ribbon on, which makes it much easier. Because number one, you can always sew the ribbon on after, or you could use a little piece of chain or whatever. It's easy to put it on afterwards, especially if you have this opening with the front and the back are separate. You could slide your ribbon in there and do a little stitching on both of those. It's not your prom dress. Nobody's gonna really notice. Next week on Saturday, I finally got in my microwave batting, so I will be doing the steaming the potato sack for the microwave. I believe that's next week's project. I'm trying to remember if next week is this. No, next week, I'm sorry. Next week is the serger drawstring bag. And then the following week is the potato sack for the microwave. So I'll see everybody next Saturday, 11 o'clock. I will put up the supplies. I'll try to get them up earlier than Friday. Maybe if I can get them done by Wednesday with a picture to give you a little more time. And we will be serging any serger, 3-thread, 4-thread, whatever you have. And we're going to make a drawstring bag, totally on the serger. And I will show you how to do a real easy drawstring on the serger as well. So everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.